What was ruined because too many people did it?
Story 1. Airbnb. Used to love Airbnb years ago. Now it's pricier than a lot of decent hotels, and some of the house rules are nutty. My friend gave me a discount coupon for one. I compared it to a local hotel, and the hotel was cheaper with fewer rules. My hotel doesn't expect me to leave the room in pristine shape. I leave the towels in the tub and pick up all the garbage, but I'm not expected to vacuum and dust. For real, I stayed at an Airbnb once on a ski trip, and it was clearly the people's family home, so not like a random rental. We cleaned all the sheets, pillowcases, towels, wiped down the countertops, ran the dishwasher, swept. Then we got a message from them because they were upset we put a wooden spoon in the dishwasher. I guess in the 40-page manual they left, it said not to. They couldn't believe we hadn't read the entire thing cover to cover, and on top of that, there are always crazy cleaning fees. Like, why am I paying a $150 cleaning fee on top of cleaning your house? The high cleaning fee is just a way to lower the price in searches. Doesn't work anymore though. Lower rental prices, higher cleaning fee, like charging really high shipping on eBay. Also, Airbnb takes a portion of the price, but does not take a portion of the cleaning fee. It's become a way to make a few extra dollars that Airbnb doesn't tax. It's the same as online sellers on eBay, Etsy, etc. who charge exorbitant shipping fees. It's just a way to skim from the company. And like, more power to you, but it's such a headache to try to book somewhere and while booking find out the reasonable booking is ridiculously higher than expected. Also, sorry, but if I'm paying $100+ for a cleaning fee, I will not be stripping the beds. I always do reasonable tidying anywhere I stay, but I'm not spending the last day of my stay deep cleaning. Edit. Please stop replying to me about eBay. Apparently they've changed their practices since I last used it, likely due to the aforementioned reason. And as you can see, it's already been addressed by other users ad nauseum. Airbnb is so big, it's killing the town I live in. I live in a tourist town up on top of a mountain, and up until the Airbnbs got big hotels and a handful of dedicated rental cabins were enough to accommodate for the tourists we get. Now, half the houses in town are exclusively vacation rentals. People are being evicted to make room for more every day, and there's nobody left to work at any of our businesses, and the price of literally everything has risen far above the price it would be in any other town. Edit. I already answered where I'm talking about, so you can stop asking. Kinda depressing that there are so many places that people immediately think of when I say this, though. I attempted to use Airbnb once, and I'll never try again. Booked a private entrance room in someone's house for almost a month while I was going to be on leave back in the States. The day before I'm set to check in, they contact me on the website saying that the room wasn't available because they turned it into their baby's nursery 7 months ago. Airbnb tried to fight me so hard to refund everything, but it was a completely false listing, so I got all my money back after a several-hour-long phone call. Ridiculous. The hotel room I ended up getting actually was cheaper, and it had a kitchen, plus cleaning and no baby crying. I'll stick to hotels every time. F Airbnb. Airbnb started off as such a nice idea. Oh, you're, going to be away from your house, for a month or so and want to make a little extra cash, or maybe you've just got a spare room and you want to help someone out for way cheaper than a hotel? Airbnb. But of course, people and companies saw dollar signs and abused the system and ruined the real estate market in some areas, ruined the economy in, touristy places and stuff, and just kind of ruined everything. So yeah, what started off as kind of a nice concept really just turned to crap.
Story 2. The Appalachian Trail. People leaving their trash everywhere is really ruining the trail, and it's so effing crowded now. People who litter on trails or campsites or in general annoy the F out of me. If you brought it in, you are fully capable of bringing it out. Do you actually like being out in nature if you leave your trash in it? People are pigs. I work in a store and people leave garbage and half-eaten food sample stuffs in amongst the products. Adults blame kids, but there's no kid tall enough to reach the spots I've found gross garbage. People could have a garbage can attached to their hip and they'd still find a place on the ground to throw it. Usually they're not too bright either. Same people who trash public bathrooms and scream in hotels at 2 a.m. Litterbugs are some of the worst people. We take trash bags when we go hiking and pick up whatever we see. One time we were doing it, a bunch of kids were around and they started picking up trash and bringing it to us. It was pretty amazing. I sharpened some sticks up for them to stab the trash with, and they really seemed to like stabbing trash, so it made it fun for them. What really made us mad was there was a trash can within sight that the litter bugs could have used. I live in Appalachia, and the tourists coming in to hike and camp have kind of ruined the local wildlands. A lot of them are absolutely filthy and tend to be super condescending and rude to locals for some reason. Nowadays, a lot of our natural trails through the mountains are covered in broken beer bottles and all kinds of other trash. They have zero respect for the land and people living in it. It's almost to the point where I can't even enjoy the beautiful nature around my home because of these effing halfwits.
You know, I actually had a friend last year who he walked the entire Appalachian Trail. He's a retired guy. Extremely nice, though. He made sure he cleaned up every single bit of trash that he had. He made sure not to disturb nature or anything like that. And also, part of the trip was him stopping at all these towns and getting to know people. And he made friends along the way and just learned about their town and, things around it. That's the way to do things. Treat people nice. Treat nature with respect. And, you'll probably have a better time.
Story 3. You used to be one of the only few people around bidding on storage lockers. It used to be a fun hobby I gave up on because it became too popular and people are grossly overpaying for the lockers, which is often just paying to make a dump run for someone. My mom put all my stuff in a storage locker when I went abroad and then lost it for not paying for 8 months and lying about it. I lost everything I owned since childhood except for 2 suitcases of clothes I had brought with me to study abroad. All my photos, journals I had kept religiously since I was 5 years old, mementos, stories, poems, and paintings, thousands of dollars of rare books, stuff I hope to digitize and or give to my kids someday. I tried to find out what happened to my stuff after I found out what happened, but whoever bought the unit threw everything away. Now when I see ads for those shows, I just feel sick to my stomach. Had the same thing happen with my dad. I moved to another city temporarily for a seasonal job, and my dad said he'd pay for a storage locker for all my stuff while I was gone. He ended up not paying any of it and lying about it the whole time and until the unit was sold off. Finding out all the irreplaceable things you've accumulated over the years are just gone with no way to get them back is a horrible feeling. My condolences. My old next-door neighbor bought the contents of a storage unit and after finding nothing of any real value, almost threw everything out before he found an old letter with an address. Paid a month's rent on the unit and left the stuff there while he tried to see if he could find anything. He was able to find out that the original owner had died, but got in contact with her kids, and for the cost of the month's rent, he was able to return a lot of sentimental objects to them. Give it a couple of years. The people doing that will run out of money eventually. In the meantime, you could go and not bid, then offer reasonable sums on anything that catches your eye to the people who have just bid too much. They'll be looking to quickly capitalize on the money they've just burned, are still riding high on the endorphins from winning on a big purchase, and you're at ground zero for a quick appraisal and access to choice items. Might not work, but it'd certainly give you back some of the fun without all of the risk, plus you might get to stick it to the people who keep you from your hobby. Story 4. Craft fairs. Now they're crowded with dozens of MLMs. I just want to find knitted slippers made by an old lady who clearly has a drinking problem, not more Norwex. My cousin sells Mary Kay and always sets up a booth at craft fairs. She puts up signs saying, "Support your small business." Huh? Those people see themselves as successful independent entrepreneurs who have pulled themselves up by their own bootstraps and are totally responsible for it all. They do, until it goes under, as did a certain kid's clothing one last week. And then it's all, us poor moms were fired with no notice. I'm sorry, I thought you were the boss babes with your own business. How did you get fired? One of the small towns I've lived in has an annual street fair. Used to be great as you'd have local artists and crafters, local food trucks, and kids' rides. And while it did bring in outside people for the day, it was predominantly locals, so you'd wander around and stop often to chat. Local politicians decided to set up a booth one year. The next year, the opponent did the same thing, and now one whole street of the fair is just filled with local politicians handing out flyers and trying to get people to vote for them. Really dragged down the tone of the fair. Luckily, the craft fairs I do in my area are selective on that kind of stuff, and it's mostly crafters and a few local businesses. I haven't done any craft fairs since COVID started, but I want to. I'm a hobby crafter, so I end up with all kinds of stuff on my table when I go. I get more crap from the other sellers than I do from the folks checking the fair out. I actually make my stuff sourced from suppliers that are either in my state or at least in the same country. I also don't dye my products, so my candles and wax melts are the color of the fragrance, which can be super neat looking depending on the fragrance. When we were doing shows, though, we were often one of the few that were not MLMs.
I love craft fairs, but they are for hobbyists and small businesses. They are a venue for them to get their product out to people, get, people hearing about them and all that kind of stuff. For folks who can't afford to buy like a real storefront or whose business is new enough to where they might not know if they can support a full storefront. So all of you MLMs, please just burn down. But for the rest of the bigger businesses out there, stay out of the craft fairs. It's going to make the people who should be there happier, and it's going to make the people shopping at them happier.
Story 5. Subscription everything, especially software. I want to buy Office or AutoCAD one time and use it for a decade. I don't want to buy it every year. A lovely counterexample is DaVinci Resolve. It's a serious video editing package used on proper films, and there's a free as in beer version and a paid for version. The free version limits you to 4K timelines, presumably because if you're cutting higher resolutions, then you're making a proper film and can afford it, and doesn't have some of the fancier effects and neural engine processing that the paid-for one has. But other than that, there are no limitations. You can use the free one commercially for as long as you like. A license for the paid one is about 300 quid and also comes free with some of the hardware they produce. Once you've got your license, that's it. It'll work on all the versions up to the current one. There's nothing that explicitly says they'll never ask you to pay to upgrade, but they haven't yet. I think their business model is getting the enthusiastic amateur market using it, and then the few that go on to a career in filmmaking will then just go out and buy themselves a remarkably inexpensive, about £6,000 or so, digital cinema camera from BMD and base their studio around all the control panels you can buy for it. Kind of like we give it away for free because we know you're going to buy it next week anyway. I haven't bought it yet, but it's on my list for early next year because I want some of the cleanup and scaling tools that only work in studio. Story 6. Cooking shows. There used to be a few talented chefs who had shows to teach. Now it's every damn celebrity who can or cannot cook making the same recipes as everyone else. I miss the Food Network back in the day with Good Eats. What's even worse is there are no real cooking shows anymore. It's stupid competition after stupid competition. Story 7. The summit of Mount Everest is like a trash heap now. You forgot to mention the fact that it's basically a mass grave now, too. Fun stuff indeed. There are a lot of bodies frozen in the snow due to the difficulty in retrieving them. With that being said, Everest is far less dangerous for climbers than peaks of similar altitudes, such as the infamous K2. Green boots. I think about him every now and then. More so, perhaps, than any other unknown to me deceased person. I'm not quite sure why. I think Green Boots has been removed. There's a group that has been climbing and reclaiming bodies from off the mountain. Story 8. Thrift shopping. Yep, 15 years ago, the prices were so cheap and you could always find a gem. Now they're always crowded and everything is overpriced, and you might find something good once every 2 to 3 visits if you're lucky. I blame the online sellers. Our local thrift stores have people who go in when they open and drop a few $100s on stuff and resell it on the Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, etc. It's not just thrift stores either. They do it at all the local discount stores. Retail arbitrage is the new entrepreneur. Yeah, they caught on to the resellers and figured they'd just cut out the middleman and make the profits themselves, so they started pricing things at reseller prices, which is kind of stupid because people go there looking for a bargain. Plus, people buying from resellers online are usually looking for that particular thing and are willing to pay more for it because of that. My local Goodwill rarely puts anything good out, and when the tiers are rolled out, which occasionally has good stuff, everyone comes attacking like wolves at dinner time. I've seen a few fights break out, once over a framed Beatles poster, second time it was a cassette player, third was a decoy book box. Good stuff rarely makes it to the shelves.
Look, I'm all about people, making cash however they can legally, but, it does suck because what started off as like people buying and reselling stuff is just a way to make a little extra cash and whatnot. Once again, people saw dollar signs and have just completely abused and oversaturated that market. And I don't want to like criticize anyone who does that because, like I said, make your money how you can, but man, the whole system and whatever's forced people into, pursuing that has really kind of ruined the whole thing.
Story 9. Streaming services. I miss the days of one single service, Netflix. Now every studio has its own service and holds their stuff away from services like Netflix and Hulu. Direct consequence, too many subscription. At this point, it's more economical to buy stuff you want to watch. Maybe a little weird, but I miss the early days of Netflix when they'd ship you DVDs with a return shipping label. My habit was to watch the movie, then if it was actually good, the next night I'd watch the extras like the director and cast commentary. As far as I'm concerned, you can't stream that stuff. It was really great for classic stuff like the Kurosawa films. The DVD extras had a film scholar talking about the cinematography techniques invented while making those movies, etc. Geeky stuff, but that's what I'm into. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.